How we doing, everybody? Let's see if I'm actually live. First time doing this solo. Connor Hickman just jumped out of the gym to block a shot. You don't see too many white dudes doing stuff like that. Love to see it. Got about a minute left. 83-53. Another just whooping. The Frenchman is in. Still no CJ Anthony. What does the walk-on have to do to get into a basketball game? They got to be up by 100 points, I guess, this year. Roster's too loaded. All right, I think I just my headphones weren't to anything. They were to my own phone. Bill Simmons podcast just started playing. We're good now. All right, we got about 30 ticks left. Morehead State. Morehead State might be a good team. I know they lost by 40 to Louisville. Oh, 7 seconds left. This thing, did we cover? What the hell? What was the spread? It's got to be right around here. Let's see. $27.5. We're up 20. Oh, no. Say it ain't so. 27. It's gonna end like that. We're not gonna cover. Oh, sorry, Lily. I know you got money on this one. All right, Niehaus, looks like you're here, brother. Somewhere around here. I see him pacing around. I'll wait. I'll give him a second. We missed the cover. You got to be kidding me. By a free throw. God, Vegas is good, man. Vegas is good. All right, there it is. That's the final. 83-56. Let's get Niehaus in here. Make sure we're good to go here. Niehaus, I just hopped you on. I can see the top of your head. All right, well, you're on, brother. Welcome.
Well, hold up. I'm plugging in. I'm home from the game.
We'll run the intro. Here we go. If I can figure this out on the ones and twos. Hold on. Oh, fantastic. It won't let me run the intro. Oh, great. Fantastic. It won't let me switch. All right. Anyway, let's get into it. typically we have the intro. We got the good graphics for you. We're just going to do this raw and live, okay? Because it won't let me flip over to the right overlay. It is what it is. This is what we deal with here, Chatterbox. So there you go, man. 83-56. Like I said, we did not cover. I'm your host, Hudson Klauke. Nick Niehaus will be joining us shortly. I'm going to loop him in now.
All right. Can you hear me, Hudson?
Yeah, we got you, brother. We got you.
All right. Love it.
So you were actually at Fifth Third Arena. Terry Nelson was saying on the call, there goes the banner. Terry Nelson
Love it.
was saying that it felt like they were at Augusta. It was so quiet. Is that accurate? I couldn't really tell based on the coverage.
Well, I got to say, when it comes to how you win games, I mean, there wasn't a lot of outside shooting, wasn't anything too exciting. Everything came in the paint. So there wasn't anything too much for fans to cheer about. I wouldn't say it was like Augusta. I mean, that seems like a slight. I mean, it was still fun out there. It was a good game. I mean, what did we win by? I didn't see the final score. I was scrambling, getting stuff together. My flag just fell down on my wall, as you just saw. So I didn't get the final score. But I mean, what was it, 25+ point win? That's pretty good.
27 was the final, and I saw the line was 27 and a half, which is brutal. But I think the big thing's coming in. I know it's Morehead State, kind of a tune-up game. Same thing with Arkansas-Pine Bluff. The injuries. So I had no idea Dan Skillings was even banged up. It was probably, 30 minutes before tip where we saw the tweets that he was going to be out. I saw one was a lower back, and then the other one I heard was a knee. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Apparently, boots on the ground, you actually said that he was cutting. Didn't look like it was anything serious. I'm assuming they were just being cautious because we're playing Morehead State, but you tell me what you saw out there.
He looked fine. He was walking around. He was like just messing around with the other guys, like acting like he was going to cross him up. You know what I mean? Like that little motion of little hesitation. And if it was the knee, like you mentioned, like it didn't seem like it was bothering him. He looked like he was walking like any other day. So I would say I'm optimistic about it. Like you said, I think it's just Morehead State, just like how Day Thomas has set out the first two games. I wouldn't say it's any cause for concern.
Yeah, Day's makes me a little more nervous because this seems to be kind of lingering. Yeah, because you want to get him out there and, ingratiated in the lineup because Wes is playing a ton of different guys. So that's the one I'm a little more concerned with is Day because we certainly need him. I mean, in my opinion, he's got to be one of the best backup point guards in the entire, college basketball. So little worried about that. I don't want one of those lingerings. It's a foot, and I don't know. I've done too many fantasy football drafts where a guy's got a foot injury and he just sits out for 16 weeks. So hopefully Day can be back in action when we play. We don't play till next Friday, so hopefully he can play then. But that being said, with Skillings out, we inserted Connor Hickman into the lineup. So we went Jizzle, Connor Hickman, Seamoss, Dylan Mitchell, and Aziz, which you could argue from a spacing perspective or standpoint might be better from the offensive side of the ball, just because Skillings isn't a great shooter. Not necessarily. I mean, he's one of our best players, but the lineup I don't hate, and I kind of like giving guys opportunities to start because we're going to probably need Hickman to start at certain points. He didn't have a great game, but I thought he looked pretty good.
Well, here's the thing: is outside of the front court, outside of the five, you can afford now. Look, you don't want to see Skillings go down, but you can afford somebody taking a night off. Hickman is a good substitute for Skillings in the starting lineup. Not a great game from him though. 2 points,
no.
But still, that's what our strength is. We, like Lily said this week in the midweek show, we got strength in numbers. If there was a position group to go down and we need somebody to step up, it's literally 1 through 4. It's just the 5 spot that we need Aziz Bandaogo to stay healthy all year. So that, like I said, we have an embarrassment of riches at 1 through 4. It's great.
We really do. And what I thought was interesting, and I know Wes is just experimenting, first 2 guys off the bench was CJ Frederick and Tyler Betsy. Betsy not as interesting, but CJ Frederick. who Chuck was saying last time, he thought he was kind of the odd man out of the rotation because I thought, right when Skillings went out, I thought there was going to be a big Rayvon Griffith day. Not the case whatsoever. He barely played. But C.J. Frederick, what do you think from him tonight? He got more burn than I thought he would, and I thought he looked pretty solid. But what are your thoughts?
Well, I know we're big on Wes's lineups, and I just remember in the first half thinking, and I'm reading through these guys. We had C.J. Frederick on the floor, we had Tyler Betsy on the floor, we had Seamus on the floor, and we had Connor Hickman on the floor, all at once. If I'm not mistaken, I think I'm correct on that. And I'm like, what a lineup! I feel like this is something that we're only going to be able to see against Morehead State, right? We're not going to run that lineup on the floor in Big 12 play. But I remember, and I went with my father, and I remember looking at him, and I'm like, when's the last time we had 4 3-point shooters on the floor at the same time? I cannot remember that. 4 guys that can light it up from 3. Now, we didn't light it up from 3 tonight, which is funny to say because we still shot 30. Now, if ESPN's box score is correct, we shot 37.5% from 3, which is a respectable percentage. And it didn't seem like we were having a great shooting night. So that just goes to tell you what these guys can do.
Oh yeah, like you were texting me. We weren't shooting the ball well, and actually before that, it was like 43%. They chucked up a couple at the end of the game. So I mean, they 60% from the field, 38% from 3, and it kind of looked like an off night. And somebody in the chat, yeah, John White said just another competitive practice. But these things matter because a lot when teams that aren't they're not elite teams, they'll keep teams like Morehead State around. I mean, sure, it might not be a 5-point game, but you're talking 12, 14 points, something like that. I mean, Xavier just beat God knows who by about 14. UC is running these guys off of the court. And I think there's something to be said about that. And with the lineups that we can move in and out of, Aziz Bandaogo has been awesome, man. I was trying to fire up like the meme with the Peter Parker and the glasses. Is that Blake Griffin now? The way he's finishing alley-oops? Because he was, he went, 5 of 6, 12 points, 5 boards. If we can get numbers like that from Aziz Bandaogo as our 5-man, I think we're going to be in real good shape.
Well, and I just, what I texted you guys to start the game, I'm like, I think we worked on lobs in the off season. Cause I remember last year, when you looked at his Utah Valley highlights, it was all alley-oops. It was all slam dunks. And we're like, all right, we're about to get this guy who is lethal in the pick and roll. Then we start last year, and it seems like we couldn't connect on an alley-oop to save our life. Tonight we go out there, and it was like the first 4 buckets we had, it seemed, they were all alley-oops to Bandaogo. And that's why I said, I was like, I think we worked on lobs in the offseason. I think that might have been a focal point for Wes because he's really a threat. And, one knock on him is his back to the rim, like his post game, like just back to the rim, like, backing somebody down and like a hook shot. But the first one he took, he buried. And it's like, maybe it's a confidence thing because that's not necessarily his game. I'd rather see a pick and roll alley-oop for him because that seems like it's a lock this year. But even, I mean, 5 for 6, that's crazy. Good for Bandaogo.
Yeah, that honestly, that worried me. He did a 12-foot left-handed hook shot essentially, and it drilled it. And I was like, I mean, I remember like playing basketball back in the day, like one kid that can't shoot just drills like a 5 feet beyond the arc 3, and then he starts firing them for the rest of the game. And you're like, whoa. So I don't know if I want to see Aziz shooting those shots, but hell, we're playing Morehead State. If he can get some reps in, I love it. But if he could just finish alley-oops, like you said, by all means, man, like let's do it. And this team just has so many ways to beat you. Like we've said, I mean, we're gonna beat a dead horse here. So many ways to beat you if the shot's not there. I mean, guys were being able to get to the rim. I know it's Morehead State, but I don't think that's going anywhere. Just running through the box score real quick for you. So I just said Bandaogo with 12. Dylan Mitchell, this is what we saw at the exhibition. 7 of 7, 14 points, and he might have had 7 dunks. I mean, he almost jumped over the hoop on one of them. The guy is electric. He looked fantastic, 14 and 9. And then you got Lukosha, 6 of 7 with 14. Jizzle James, 6 of 10 with 14, and he started, I think he missed his first 5 or so. He came in hot, which I really liked because I was getting worried that he was getting a little nervous about his jump shot, and he started knocking down some shots. And then you got Arrington Page off the bench with 13, and Betsy was 7. Frederick knocked in 5, and like we said, Hickman was, I think he had the first basket of the game and was never to be seen again. But what a complete game. That's what you like to see. I'd prefer to see the well spread out rather than having one guy go for 30. I really would, especially in these types of games.
Well, emphasis on the many ways to beat you. That's what I think we take away from this, because I think it was late in the first half, and I'm looking at the score, and we're killing them. And just James only had 2 points, and Seamus Sakocious, I don't want to put a number out there, but it was like 2, 4, 6. I don't know. It was not a lot. Now, granted, he ended up with 14, but I'm like, how are we winning by 25 points? Who is scoring? And it was Aziz Bendego, right? And Dylan Mitchell, 7 for 7 is just crazy. Many ways to beat you. That's the thing about this team. Arrington Page, the first game, I think I'm going to reference a midweek show. I said, it seems like every person you talk to about that first game has a new guy to talk about. Arrington Page, the first game, he was all right, right? He looked, it's like he developed in a week. 13 points, 3 of 4 from the field. Obviously knocked down some free throws too. Really liked what I saw from Page tonight. Betsy's going to be a stud. It was a good game. I mean, despite it, like you said, it didn't seem like there was a lot of cheers and whatnot. It wasn't the most exciting game, and we won by 27 points. 27 points. Crazy. I love it.
Great. Kirby just hopped on as the producer and saw what kind of a shit show we were running out here and edited the graphics. Apparently, I went live before I set the graphics and I couldn't change it. So, Kirby, I apologize, and I appreciate you saving this show. My question would be, because I think it's going to be a question all year. We clearly haven't seen anything or quite enough yet, 2 games into the season. But my initial gut thought is crunch time, need a bucket, need a playmaker. I'm thinking Seamus Lukosius is that guy, at least right now. That could change with, Jizzle James obviously has a ton of room to grow. What do you think on that? I think Seamus is like I trust him the most with the basketball. I think he's the smoothest. I don't think he necessarily needs to shoot. But when he does, man, I mean, we saw it last year, at the end of last year, knocking down clutch threes. That's my guy, at least where we stand today.
Well, it's going to depend on what kind of play we're running, right? Because if you're talking drive to the rim, get a bucket through contested, defense, Skillings and Jizzle, those two are your guys there. Now, Seamus was that guy off of off-ball screens last year, curl, top of the key, knock down a 3. I think it's got to be Seamus who's going to knock down a big shot. We've talked, and Skillings has got to be our best player, right? And so it's funny because we're talking about this game. We handled them. We didn't have our best player. But to your point, I think it's going to be Seamus. I think the ball's going to be in Seamus's hands, or at least they're going to run some sort of set to him. Now, like I said, I think if you need somebody to drive to the rim, you're either giving it to Skillings or Jizzle. But a set play, need a 3, Seamus is your guy.
I would agree. And again, it's going to come down to how the season progresses. We got we got a few more tune-up games. We got Nichols next Friday. Then NKU, we lost to NKU, 2 years ago? I'm not sleeping on playing NKU. I think, I guess it's at NKU this year, correct? Right?
Yeah, it is. It is. Get your tickets. I would love to see more Bearcat fans and NKU fans. I remember when because this was like, we're playing there because they let us use their arena, right?
Yes, because when they were doing the renovations, we were like, hey, we'll be the bigger man here. We'll actually play you at NKU, the concrete jungle. And then we went there and lost. And then, our AD Cunningham was probably like, oh, God damn, what the hell did we do? I don't think this team has any chance of losing, but at least we know NKU isn't necessarily Arkansas-Pine Bluff. I think that'll be a decent tune-up game before we got to play Georgia Tech. That's really when the season's going to start. But to go back to some of these guys, Betsy, I wasn't sure watching that exhibition game. I was like, he's a little slower than I might have thought. That guy looks extremely ready to contribute against any team in the country just because the way he could shoot and his length. So he's probably the most exciting guy that I've seen as far as, what I expected coming into the year is Tyler Betsy. And we could get into it in a second about Rayvon Griffith. I still think he should be playing. But what are your initial thoughts on Betsy? We're 2 games into the year and 1 exhibition game. What do you think about our guy Tyler Betsy?
I just go back to when you hear that we're recruiting him and you saw his ranking, and it's he was like top 35, and you see his height and he's 6'8", and I'm like, okay, this is going to be I mean, think about Bearcats at that size. They're not shooters, right? We haven't had a shooter at that size in a long time. And I had never seen him play. I'm like, okay, we're going off high 4 stars. We're trying to get this guy. And then you watch his senior year highlight tape, and he's just banging threes. It's such a weird game from him. Like that's something that is just different for fans of UC because we haven't seen anything like that in the past. But I love it. I mean, I think that's something that can go far, right? I mean, you can never have too many shooters. And Tyler Betsy, he doesn't look afraid out there. I think I said this a couple days ago where Wes instills confidence. He's a freshman coming into this team that is just loaded with guys, and he seems like he has no fear out there. He took 7 shots tonight as a freshman, and there's how many guys played? 11 guys saw the floor. I love what I saw from Betsy. Connor Hickman's my guy, though. I think that's the guy I'm most excited about, even though he didn't have a great game. 0 for 3 from 3, 1 for 5 from the floor. But this guy seems like he can do it all. He can shoot from 3. He can also cut. He can finish at the rim. Not a great game from him, but I'm not going to expect too many bad shooting nights from Hickman.
Yeah, and I think we're still stuck in Mick Cronin. I sound like I hate Mick Cronin or something, but we're all still stuck in the Mick Cronin mindset, where I'm pretty sure if Cronin saw a guy in high school that was shooting over 40% from threes, like we don't want him. We do not. That's not a Bearcat. Okay, we want a guy that can only shoot a shot within 6 feet and will get 14 rebounds a game. We got some actual legit skill players on this team, and I didn't do my due diligence on Tyler Betsy. I did not know he was going to be a perimeter player more so, and that's what he is. But that brings me to another thing that I think is kind of a hot topic. Not that it's going to make or break this season necessarily, but Rayvon Griffith seems to be – he didn't do much. I mean, he didn't play much. He was 0 for 2 with 3 fouls. But Josh Reed is getting playing time over Rayvon Griffith, which – I'm not sure that I agree with. And I know Wes Miller is deathly loyal. And that's what worries me slightly is that he's like, hey, Josh Reed could have transferred. He didn't. We're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But I would hate to lose a guy like Rayvon Griffith because I see the potential. But if he doesn't get any playing time, I think he's going to look elsewhere with the way the portal works. So I don't see the upside in Josh Reed. Like I really don't. And he's a smart player. He knows his role. That's for sure. But a team that's loaded with this much talent, I don't know how you don't give Rayvon Griffith those minutes.
I agree with you. I really do. It's got to be defense, right? Because Josh Reed gives you something on defense. So I feel like that's got to be what Wes is going for here. Yeah, Josh Reed 1 for 4, 0 from 1 from 3, or 0 for 1 from 3. Like you said, it's funny because I was sitting there and the guy I went to the game with, he was like, the thing about now in today's college basketball era is you got to keep everybody happy. So to your point, but you can't just play somebody just so they don't transfer. It's such a weird dynamic in today's day and age.
Tough.
It's weird. But I'm with you. I agree. You play Ravon because you see the potential that this guy has. He's long, and he's long, he's fast, he's quick. And we saw on Monday, he's not afraid to shoot the ball. So I'm with you. I'm not going to get on the, dog Josh Reed train by any means because he stayed through the thick and thin here. But yeah, I think you got to play Ravon. I think you do.
I do too, and it's not necessarily playing a guy just so he doesn't transfer, but when you're given 10 minutes to somebody in particular, I lean towards the younger guy that has more potential versus a guy that you kind of know what the ceiling is. And hell, maybe Josh Reed turns into something that I didn't see. But from what I've seen so far, and we've seen a decent amount of him. I thought he was great for the team last year. Put a guy in there that knows his role. He's not going to go out of his way to chuck up 50 shots. And I will say he did improve that moon ball of a jump shot. Last year he was hitting the jumbotron, so he cleaned that up a little bit. So I got to give him credit there. But I just don't want. And I said it on the last show. Wes Miller's greatest attribute is keeping morale high for everybody. Like, I mean, it is insane the way that he's able to coach these kids up, and they're all bought in to what he's preaching in UC basketball. I mean, we had the best top 10, I think, retention rate in college basketball, which there's a lot to be said. I think there was all these NIL numbers are all just made up. I guarantee it. But they're like, Skillings was offered like 600,000 more, but he wanted to stay. I'm like, was he really? I don't know if I believe that at all. But it seems like we got a good NIL collective anyway, and Wes is doing the job. You weren't actually able to watch it. I was watching ESPN Plus, and I thought it was my Wi-Fi. ESPN Plus. Wait, I cannot wait to get into regular basketball, but the fact that Xavier's going to be on ESPN Plus, that's another story for another day. Horrendous broadcast. Not the broadcasters, they were fine. It was going blurry for 5-minute spurts. I couldn't see Wes Miller's halftime show or halftime interview at all. Cut out completely. They just went to like a commercial. So I was like, ESPN Plus is the worst thing I've ever seen. And then I'm watching the commercials at halftime. Me and you are on one of the commercials. I'm like, you know what? ESPN Plus is a great broadcast. These guys know what they're doing. So that was a pleasant surprise. Just shot in there. I was like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme. I was on my couch just staring. I was like, that's me. So that was good stuff. So we love it.
We were wondering if we were going to be on the Jumbotron because we saw that hype video come out on Monday, the day of the first game. And I'm like, I didn't get to the game early because, I mean, look, I go to pretty much every single home game. I didn't get to the game early enough on Monday to see if we made the Jumbotron. I got there early enough today, and I'm like, oh, we didn't make it. We're not on the Jumbotron. But I'm walking up to my seats, and I see us on TV, and that's when I texted you. I was like, hey, look, they're showing us on the TV outside on the concourse. And you're like, no, we're on ESPN Plus. How about that? We made it. We're on the broadcast. Love it.
Yeah, we'll be collecting royalties for a long. We're rich men now. No doubt about it.
I want to say something. And talking about minutes.
Yeah.
Did you see CJ Frederick getting 21 minutes a game? He got 21 minutes tonight.
No, I certainly did not see that coming. And the broadcast, like Nelson and the other guy, were just like, I didn't realize it. He's the 5th oldest player in college basketball. It's his 7th season.
7th year.
And I'm a CJ Frederick guy because he came on the show last year for no reason. He just came on and he was great. And I mentioned, I was like, man, you feel old? He's like, am I old? I'm like, I mean, yeah, you're definitely old. You're damn. Yeah, they mentioned that. They're like, he's married. That's how old this guy is. I was like, give this kid a break. He's broken every bone in his body. He's still out there. And hell, he was, he had 5 points, 1 for 3. But just the threat of a guy that could knock it down, with that efficiency, it's a weapon to have. Is he going to play 20 minutes a game? I certainly doubt it. But get him some reps against Morehead State. Get him some reps against Nichols because we're going to need him. I promise you we'll need CJ Frederick at some point in this season.
He definitely does something for the spacing. And like I mentioned earlier, 4 guys who can shoot the 3. Where, look, here's the thing. This team can not only shoot, they're freak athletes. on the way home, I like I said, I texted you. I was like, wasn't the greatest shooting night. And then you look and it's 60%. Well, we had at that point 48 paint points, 48 points in the paint. Different ways to beat you, different people to beat you. It's the spacing. It's the guys who also can just out athlete you. You saw those guys when Mick was the coach. It's funny. You're going from Mick, who recruited only athletes, and they couldn't shoot into the ocean from the beach. And then you go to Brannon, who it's like, all right, now we got some shooters. We got some kids who have some talent. And that's not saying the guys who Mick recruited didn't have talent. Those were great teams. Everybody has talent at the D1
We
level.
love Titus Rubles. Just
Well,
couldn't shoot the ball.
Yeah, look, everybody has talent at the D1 level, but you go from Mick, who has one side, Brannon, the complete opposite, and now you have Wes Miller, who seems to have found a happy medium with both. And I think that's a strength of ours. So it wasn't the most exciting game, and yet the score was 83-56. I'll take it any day.
Yeah, I mean, what we're averaging right around 90 right now, 2 games in. Didn't quite eclipse the 100-point mark. The last thing that I'll say as far as the lineup, Arrington Page is going to end up being extremely critical to this team as our backup 5. He's kind of slow. His footwork is a little bit slow, but we've seen he's able to have some like legit back to the basket moves. He had a couple, reverse layups, things like that. You got to like what you've seen from him so far. Obviously, the talent level is going to get greater and greater. He has the size. There's no doubt about that. I think that's going to end up being a pretty key to give Aziz a little bit of a rest and see what Arrington Page can do, because he's a little more polished offensively, no question. Just a little slower than Aziz as far as a defensive rim stopper. There's no question there. But I think he's going to be quite possibly one of the most critical pieces of this team if we're going to keep playing, 2 bigs with Dylan Mitchell and Aziz Bandego, because he's truly our only number 2 true 5. So I think there's a lot to be said about what he can do and how far this team can go.
Well, I liked what Eric Lilly had to say when we were talking about Halvin Zella. We're not asking him to do much on offense. I think that goes with Page as well. Defend and rebound. That's what you're going to be asked to do with the 5. You got 4 other guys who can score the ball. I have no worries about any of these guys scoring the ball. Dylan Mitchell, he can score. I mean, he went 7 for 7, and he's not even he's not a shooter. He's not somebody who's going to stretch. Seamus, 6 for 7. Chisel James, 6 for 10. Aziz Bandego, 5 for 6. Talk about efficiency from 4 out of our 5 starters right there. So, yeah, if Page is asked to play big minutes, rebound and defend. That's all we're asking of you. He looked way better today than he did on Monday. I don't think anybody's going to question that. But I think that 5 spot after Bandego is going to be a let's hold strong, right?
No, yeah. Yeah, and I when we're playing these games, part of me is like, God, I wish we were playing, crazy right off the bat. Give me Michigan State. We just saw Kansas beat the brakes off of UNC. And I still think this strategy is much smarter. Get these guys reps, especially with all these transfers coming in. Let them get comfortable. Let them, stat pad a little bit too. Like, do I think, Arrington Page is going to have 13 points against Texas Tech? I don't. So give these kids some confidence, because we're playing a lot of cupcakes, no question. And, we're already claiming Final Four after beating Arkansas-Pine Bluff and Morehead State, who they just beat a team. I think it's either a community college or D3. They just beat Boyce University by 40. Morehead State might be good. Okay. We don't know.
Oh, yeah. They're 1 and 2.
They beat somebody that doesn't even have a graphic on ESPN. So
do you think me and you could play for Boyce? I think I can get a shot up or 2. I think I could.
I'd probably average about 6 and 4, I think.
Yeah.
Really efficient.
No, look, again, not the most exciting game, but still a blowout. We didn't cover the spread. I think that's the most disappointing thing of the night. We didn't cover the spread. What, by half a point or 1.5 points, depending on where you got it. I had Cincinnati over 85 points, and I'm watching on my. I know. I'm watching on my phone on the ride home. I was in the passenger seat, and I'm like, I'm listening to Dan Horde on the radio, so I know what's happening before it happens on my phone. It was like, I don't even know why I was watching, but I'm like, 85.5. Can you imagine that 6 years ago? That doesn't even seem like in the realm of existence. And we scored 109 on Monday. Like you said, the competition's going to get taken up a notch, but I think this is the way to do it. Get guys confidence because, look, despite returning a lot of guys, you still have a ton of newcomers, and that's going to happen every single year in college basketball this year. Dylan Mitchell, new to the starting lineup. Jizzle James, new to the starting lineup. Now, we hope he stays in the starting lineup, but Day-Day's obviously hurt. Again, and I'm getting off my point, but Day-Day and Daniel Skillings weren't even playing. Those are two of our two of our best 6 or 7 players right there. Didn't even play, and we almost covered, and we almost beat our team total. I lost money, but whatever.
No, it is funny. You almost forget. Like, I'm like, oh, shit, Day-Day didn't even play the last 2 games, and he's going to be a very, very heavy part of this rotation. So, again, we're going to say it all year, and we're going to have some down games, but just so many different weapons, so many different tools that West can utilize. I think scheme and, coaching is going to win us some games, hopefully. I think there's a little bit to be desired from West the last couple of years in that aspect of it. But everything we've seen thus far, again, 2 cupcakes. But what we've seen, you got to love it. And again, I'll run through kind of players of the game probably. You got Dylan Mitchell with 14 and 9, Seamoss with 14 and 6, and Jizzle with 14, Arrington Page with 13. So group effort from our Bearcats. Apparently Fifth Third was sleeping, but they'll wake up at some point. I saw the cheering section. There was a kid with a Cincy light just absolutely guzzling it. And I was like, God, I wish I was in Clifton right now. I wish I was 20 in Clifton. I don't even know if that guy was 21. So hopefully he didn't do anything illegal. He's got the FBI at his house now. But any last thoughts, Niehaus, before we wrap this thing up?
I like I said earlier this week on our midweek show, I think this team is special. I really do. I don't think there's anybody who would argue that this is the best team we've had since 2018. It just feels different. And everybody, last thought is, no matter who you talk to, I guarantee pretty much everybody's going to have a different favorite player. And that's kind of the fun part of this team. We just have some dudes. We really do. And I'm just excited to get some good competition, right? Like you said, Fifth Third might have been sleeping a little bit, but it's Morehead State. Well, what can you take away from that? Nichols next Friday. I cannot wait until late December, early January, and to see what these guys can really do because the hype is there. I'm on the hype train fully. I really am, but I think it's well deserved, and I'm just excited for this season.
I agree, man. Well, Nichols next Friday, like you just said. NKU on the road. It'll be our first road game. There's something to be said there. We did that against Howard last year and won in overtime, I think. So, and Howard was horrific. So you never know. Guys get out of Fifth Third Arena, things change. So that'll be, I think, probably our first, semi-test, if you want to call it that. And we got Georgia Tech following that. So far, so good with the Bearcats. I'm Hudson Klauke, Nick Niehaus. Thanks for joining. Right off of the Uber out of Fifth Third Arena. We had a little technical difficulties, but we got it done, folks. Kirby, thank you again on the 1s and 2s, saving the show. But that's going to be it for us. And, yeah, we will check in. I don't think we're not doing a live show. I'll say it here for tomorrow's football game. Everybody's got something going on. We'll do an audio podcast. But unfortunately, us podcasters, we're grinding. But unfortunately, we have nobody to actually do the damn live show. So I apologize for that. But we will definitely get you an audio version. We'll be back live on the Tuesday game for sure, or the next Friday against Nichols. So we will talk to you then. Rate and subscribe, like the stream, wherever you find podcasts, Chatterbox Bearcats. Over and out.